This is Find Your Dream Job, the podcast that helps you get hired, have the career you want, and make a difference in life. I'm your host, Mac Pritchard. I'm also the founder of Mac's List. It's a job board in the Pacific Northwest that helps professionals find fulfilling careers. One of the best ways to get good at job hunting is to talk to people who do it well. That's why once a month, I interview a Mac's List reader who found a job they love. Our guest today is Stacey Rice. She's the program strategist at the City Club of Portland. Stacey believes in the power of knowing what you want. In a story you can find on the Mac's List website, Stacey says that focusing on the jobs that offer the best fit for the next step in her career made all the difference in her search. Well, Stacey, you're the program strategist at the City Club of Portland. Why do you love your job?
Gosh, I love my job deeply because we get a chance at City Club to affect civic issues in the Portland area, the Portland metro area. City Club has been around for 103 years, has an amazing history, and has an incredible history also of really tackling civic issues in Portland, making recommendations through our research about how to fix those. And we're at, I think, a very critical time in Portland with the issues that we face here. And City Club has undertaken a pretty major organizational change to make it more diverse and inclusive and socially just. And that's what really attracted me to City Club, outside the civic issue piece of that, is that that's such important work today in time and changing old-time institutions.
It is an institution that's been around for some time, and Portland, like many other cities also have city clubs. But let's talk about your job search, Stacey. What was the biggest challenge you faced?
Wow, probably the biggest challenge I faced was actually I had just left a long-term gig at the LGBTQ Community Center here in Portland. I'd been there for 5.5 years, and trying to find what the next piece of my journey was about from there. I mean, it was all advocacy, community center work, impacting community, taking on the issues that community was facing, and then so I needed a break, and it was time to leave. I was tired, so I took 2 or 3 months off. And during that time, I just started thinking, okay, what is next? And that kind of organizational change piece was what I was kind of looking for. I found that we did that at the Q Center as well, and I found that I really loved that kind of work.
Tell us more about that. When you say organizational change, what do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, it can show up in many different ways. I mean, at Q Center, it came that we reached a point because of mismanagement that we were about to close. And so there was a lot of staff turnover, a lot of changes. And so basically it was myself and one other person there to kind of take this on and kind of keep it all together and kind of rebuild it from basically square one again, actually, rebuilding trust in community and people who had donated to Q Center or participants at the community center. It was also just trying to rebuild it into a more diverse and inclusive place. I mean, LGBTQ community understands diversity on many levels, but there were some groups and communities who felt they didn't feel welcome, so we had to kind of take that on too. And so what happens at City Club actually is kind of the same thing, is that you're taking this 103-year-old institution who has this structure, has this history, and actually changing your programmatic things, changing your makeup of your boards and your committees to make it more diverse and inclusive. So yeah, that's kind of what organizational change is.
Okay, and that's part of what it sounds like attracted you to the City Club. What was the key to success, Stacey, in your job search?
Goodness, I found that it was actually the network that I'd built, because I've been in Portland for 8 years, I guess total now, and I had seen this job advertised on Mac's List right when I'd left Q Center. It was too tired to take on another job right then, so I just kind of put that on hold. Thought the job had already been filled until a friend of mine reached out to say, hey, I know you're looking for something. This job at City Club is still open. So it's a lovely thing to build a network. It takes time. But I feel like that every opportunity that you get to do that is super important because you never know where that's going to lead you. And I wouldn't have even looked back at the City Club, website to even see if it was still a job open. I just thought, okay, it's already filled. And then this dear friend said, hey, no, it's still open. And so, applied, interviewed, and got the job.
So that referral played an important part in your search, didn't it?
It played pretty much all of it.
Did this person not only tell you about the job, but perhaps introduce you to someone at City Club?
Didn't do any introductions at all, but did tell me quite a bit about, what the job was about. They were very familiar with City Club. They understood kind of what City Club was trying to do. They understood they knew my journey and my history at Q Centers, so they felt like, oh my gosh, this is really a great fit. And so, I wouldn't have this job unless that person had stepped up because I was kind of looking for organizational change work. And when this person stepped up, I said, oh my gosh, okay.
And how did the insights you got from your friend about the organization and its challenges help you with your application materials and the interviews?
Oh, it helped tremendously because I had a better sense of kind of what the organization was trying to do, what they were looking for actually in employees. As we know, sometimes when you go into a job that you see that you like, you don't know a lot about culture, challenges, all those kind of things. And so I felt like that this person gave me quite a wonderful foundation and background in that, which I think it does give you a leg up, I think. Yeah.
Did you do other preparation as well, Stacey, besides talking with your friend?
Oh, yeah. I dug deep into the City Club website, checked out who was on their boards, who might I know, went on the committees, took a look at all that. I could see that the organizational change was working for the folks that were part of City Club now, which was a great sign, I thought. I dug into the research piece. City Club has done research reports since probably its existence, beginning. And so I dug into those to kind of see what that was about. And I had a little bit of a sense. I'd actually been on City Club stage about 3 years before that, before I applied for this job. So I kind of knew what City Club did from an events standpoint, but I didn't know about the research. So yeah, I just dug.
You did a lot of homework, a lot of research. How did you apply that work in your interviews? What did you do in your conversations with your employer now that reflected that homework?
Well, you do have to do your homework. I think it's something, I guess this is pretty obvious, but it's really kind of hard, I think, to go in on the fly, with an interview. I think you need to dig deep and have that kind of stored away, tucked away in your mind of different things they're focusing on that you've seen, that you've heard. And the lovely thing, and it's so satisfying when you go through an interview and you've done that, and all of a sudden the questions they're asking you are kind of nailing those things that you kind of researched and looked at. So yeah, it's after the first interview, I thought, oh my gosh, they asked the questions I maybe thought they were going to ask, and I had stuff ready to say. So
before we started the interview, we were trading stories about childhood and discovery. We're about the same vintage.
Yes, we are.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're both farther along in our careers. You had an earlier career before you came to public policy and organizational change work. So you've switched careers. Can you talk about that, Stacey?
Yeah, it was. I didn't know quite what to expect. I had. Q Center is an advocacy organization, community center, as I've said. You're working just mainly in community. And then all of a sudden, this new job that I got is totally outside of community. And I have to be honest and say it took a little bit of an adjustment. I always laugh and say, I don't see as much drag queen glitter on the carpet at City Club as I used to at Q Center. But so it took a little bit to kind of find my groove, I think, with that, because it was so different. It was a tad more corporate, more business, political oriented. We did some political stuff at Q Center, but not to the extent that we do it at City Club. So yeah, But what I've found is that I love how that stretched me to kind of learn more about different pieces of the work and new people and yeah, it's been amazing.
Well, Stacey, you're a transgender woman. How has this affected your career and your job searches over the years?
Well, thank you for asking about that. Yeah. Well, I transitioned 20 years ago. Before I transitioned, I was actually in corporate sales for 10 years at least, maybe 11 almost, for a big multinational chemical company. Loved my job, but there was no way that this was in the 90s, so there was no way that I could transition on the job and probably keep my job. So I've struggled with this journey since I was 5 years old, when you know that you actually feel like a little girl inside and not the little boy that everybody sees. And so it finally got to the point where I could, finding the courage and the strength to go ahead and transition. But then I realized, and after I transitioned, I tried to find a job as my female self, I had an incredible sales experience. And it was a struggle. I'm not real sure whether it was because they thought that I was trans. I don't know, but it just didn't work. And I realized that was not going to work. So I had to basically start my whole career completely over again. I started out in retail, working in a department store.
Okay.
And I have to say, there were days that of course, compared to what my life was in the corporate world, financially, it was quite a bit different. But there was never a day that didn't go by that I was so broke. But the thing was, I was incredibly happy and joyful because I was actually my true self. And, I'll make it work somehow. So starting from there, I worked several retail jobs, worked at Nordstrom back in North Carolina. From there, I worked for the Chamber of Commerce in Asheville. Got an admin position at another firm was there for 4.5 years until I moved to Portland. And so it's been kind of cool to see how, that is built in the 20 years from starting out at Dillard's department store in Chapel Hill, North Carolina at $10 an hour. So.
Well, let's go back and thank you for sharing that story,
Sure.
Stacey. And let's talk more about your Portland job search. What didn't work when you were looking for the position you eventually found?
It was interesting. What I found, and this really surprised me. I've lived my whole life on the East Coast. I found out that maybe East Coast style is not West Coast style, especially when it comes to everything, basically. But
yes, I lived 9 years in Boston. I can affirm that too. Yeah.
You know that deeply then,
yes.
Even more so. The driving, oh my God. Okay, yeah, that's a whole nother thing.
It's a very different culture on the East Coast versus here
in
the Pacific Northwest.
I laughed when I was first started at Q Center. I was answering the phones, receptionist, admin. And when I would call people back after they had left a voicemail, like maybe 30 minutes before, they were always so stunned and shocked, like, why are you calling me back so quickly? I go, well, that's just the way we do it. So I found that I kind of had to, the first interview I went to here, I was dressed East Coast power suit style. And saw pretty quickly, oh my gosh, that's not the life here. So, I had to kind of shift that, and I knew coming here, I came here without a job, actually. I'd saved some money. I knew I was supposed to be here. Started volunteering at Q Center. 3 or 4 months later, I got a job there, which was great. But I just, I had to I wanted to work in nonprofit world. I was in corporate world mainly back east the last especially 5 to 8 years. So I thought, okay, nonprofit world. I didn't know much about nonprofits, so I kind of had to learn about that as well too when I got here and kind of scoping out who was what here in the nonprofit world. And it's always lovely to have opportunities to dig in and learn and grow that way.
Terrific. Well, Stacey, I want to close by asking, what's your number one job hunting tip?
Oh, well, my number one tip is that if you see an organization that you really love and you're wanting to leave your present job to go do something else, find time to volunteer for that organization or any other organization that's, that catches your fancy, because I've gotten 3 jobs actually over the years just by volunteering with organizations. And then you're kind of a proven person. They see that what work you do, how you'd fit in. And I've talked to other friends too who have done the same thing. I think, just set networking, volunteering piece to get out there and, especially if it's someplace you want to be, get in there and, kind of impress them.
Well, Stacey, thanks for sharing your story. You can learn more about Stacey's job search by visiting maxlist.org/stories. And check out the MaxList website for dozens of other success stories. On the second Friday of every month, we add a new interview with a MaxList reader who has found a dream job. Go to maxlist.org/stories. In the meantime, thank you for listening to today's bonus episode of Find Your Dream Job.